The glass doors of Monarch Financial's flagship branch in New York's financial district glinted under the morning sun, their polished surfaces reflecting the hurried silhouettes of Wall Street's elite. Inside, the marble-floored lobby exuded an air of unyielding authority. Mahogany counters gleamed under soft lighting. Brass fixtures shone with meticulous care, and the faint hum of wealth seemed to pulse through the air. At 10:17 a.m., a woman stepped through those doors, her presence unremarkable amidst the tailored suits and clicking heels. She wore navy slacks, a simple cream cardigan, and sensible flats, her leather purse worn but well kept. To the untrained eye, she was just another middle-class customer, perhaps a teacher or small business owner seeking basic banking services. But Maya Carter, disguised as Maya Johnson, was anything but ordinary. She was the CEO of Carter Financial Group, a self-made billionaire who had quietly acquired Monarch Financial 3 weeks earlier in a deal known only to the bank's board. Today, she was here to uncover the truth about an institution that had once crushed her family's dreams, and to dismantle the biases that still thrived within its walls. Maya paused just inside the threshold, her dark eyes scanning the lobby. The space was designed to intimidate, its towering columns and minimalist decor whispering that this was a place for those who had already arrived, not for those still striving. She adjusted her headscarf, a deliberate choice to obscure the signature braids that had graced the covers of Forbes and Black Enterprise. Her usual designer suits and elegant glasses were gone, replaced by off-the-rack clothes and contact lenses. She carried a slim folder containing a driver's license, credit reports, and bank statements, all under the name Maya Johnson, a carefully crafted identity reflecting a solid middle-class income as a self-employed consultant. Her mission was simple but profound: to experience Monarch Financial as her grandmother, Ruth Jackson, had 40 years earlier when she was denied a modest home loan despite impeccable credit, a rejection that trapped her family in rental housing and stifled their chance at generational wealth. The lobby bustled with quiet efficiency. A white businessman in his 50s, his suit crisp and briefcase monogrammed, was whisked to a private consultation desk with a deferential smile from a teller. An elderly white couple received solicitous attention as they discussed retirement accounts, their banker nodding with practiced warmth. Maya joined the main queue, where 4 customers waited for the next available teller. She observed the interactions with the precision of a strategist, noting the subtle hierarchies in service. Her heart beat steadily, but her mind raced with memories of her grandmother's story, how Ruth had stood in this same lobby, hopeful and qualified, only to be dismissed with vague excuses about neighborhood requirements. That rejection had shaped Maya's life, fueling her relentless climb from a hospital janitor's daughter to a titan of finance. Now, at 45, with assets exceeding $10 billion, she was here to ensure no one else faced the same indignity. The line moved forward, and Maya reached the teller window. A young man, no older than 24, greeted her with a polite but guarded smile. His name tag read Liam Parker, and his crisp white shirt and precisely knotted tie projected an eagerness to follow protocol. "Good morning, ma'am," he said, his voice professional but tinged with a fleeting uncertainty as he glanced at her modest attire. "How can I assist you today?" Maya returned his smile, her tone clear and measured. "I'm new to the area and looking to open a checking and savings account. I'd also like to discuss your investment services for the future." She slid her driver's license and a bank statement across the counter, the documents pristine and unremarkable, just as she intended. Liam's eyes flicked to the papers, then back to her face. A momentary pause betrayed his hesitation, as if he were recalibrating his approach. "You can find all our account options online," he said, his voice lowering slightly as he pushed a glossy brochure toward her. "Or our ATM can set up a basic account without waiting. It's really convenient." The suggestion was wrapped in the language of efficiency, but Maya recognized it for what it was: a subtle redirection, steering her away from human interaction and toward automated services. She tilted her head, maintaining her pleasant demeanor. "I'd prefer to speak with someone in person. I have specific questions about your investment products." Her words were polite but firm, a challenge disguised as a request. Liam's discomfort was palpable. His eyes darted toward the customer service desk, where Ethan Brooks, the customer service manager, sat observing the interaction. Ethan's tailored suit and expensive watch projected an image of authority, his posture that of a man who thrived on control. "I'll check if anyone's available," Liam said, picking up his phone but avoiding eye contact. His hushed conversation was telling. "I have a walk-in asking for account services." "Yes, she's requesting a banker." "I understand, but she specifically asked." He hung up, offering an apologetic smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Our personal bankers are with clients right now. It might be a while. Are you sure you wouldn't prefer the online portal? It's very user-friendly." Before Maya could respond, the glass door swung open, admitting a white woman in her 30s, dressed in casual business attire not unlike Maya's. Ethan rose from his desk with an expansive smile. "Good morning. Welcome to Monarch Financial," he called, his voice warm and caring across the lobby. "Looking to open an account? I'd be happy to assist you personally." He gestured toward a consultation desk, his demeanor a stark contrast to the dismissive efficiency offered to Maya Dodd. The difference was unmistakable. A textbook case of disparate treatment. Maya noted it silently, her mind cataloging every detail. Liam's discomfort, Ethan's selective warmth, the brochure still lying untouched on the counter. "I understand there might be a wait," she said to Liam, her tone unwavering. "I'm happy to schedule an appointment if that's easier." Liam hesitated, glancing again at Ethan, who was now laughing with the white customer as he guided her to a seat. "I'll see what I can do," he mumbled, but his reluctance was clear. Maya thanked him and stepped away, her folder tucked under her arm. As she moved toward the waiting area, she overheard a fragment of conversation from behind the counter, where Ethan had returned to his desk. "Some people don't get how busy, dollar, we work here," he muttered to a colleague, his voice low but audible. "They think they can just walk in and demand premium service." Maya's jaw tightened, but she kept her composure. She sat in the waiting area, pretending to read the brochure while observing the lobby. The businessman from earlier emerged from his consultation, shaking hands with a banker. The elderly couple signed documents with satisfied smiles. Every interaction reinforced the pattern. White customers received immediate, personalized attention, while Maya, despite her qualifications, was pushed towards self-service options. The bank's AI-driven client evaluation system, she suspected, played a role, automatically flagging customers like hers low value based on coded factors like zip codes or income profiles, modern redlining disguised as technology. Outside, the city hummed with 2025's frenetic energy. Electric taxis were passed, and digital billboards flashed ads for fintech startups challenging traditional banks like Monarch. Inside, the bank clung to its old-world prestige, but Maya knew its polished exterior hid practices that excluded entire communities. The rise of social media platforms like X had exposed similar issues at other institutions, with hashtags like #banking while Black trending whenever a new story broke. Yet Monarch Financial had avoided such scrutiny, its reputation as a bastion of stability intact. Maya was determined to change that dawn as she left the bank. A middle-aged black woman approached her near the doors. "They always do this," the woman said quietly, clutching her own folder of documents. "Told me to come back with more proof of income. But that guy, She nodded toward a white customer walking away with a temporary checkbook. Got his account in 10 minutes. Maya nodded sympathetically, her resolve hardening. I'm working on it, she said softly, her words carrying a promise she intended to keep. She stepped into the crisp autumn air, her mind already planning her next visit. Monarch Financial's carefully curated facade was about to crack, and Maya Carter would be the one to shatter it. The sleek modern kitchen of Maya Carter's Upper West Side apartment glowed under the soft light of recessed LEDs, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing the glittering skyline of New York City in October 2025. Maya stood at the counter, chopping vegetables for dinner, her movements precise despite the weight of the day's events at Monarch Financial. Across the island, her 16-year-old son, Noah, slouched in a bar stool, scrolling through X on his phone, his brow furrowed. The wall behind him was a gallery of Maya's achievements, framed Forbes covers, plaques from community centers, and a photo of her shaking hands with a senator, but the air tonight was heavy with unspoken questions. Mom, I don't get it, Noah said, setting his phone down with a clatter. You own that bank now. Why go through all this undercover stuff? Just fire everyone and fix it. His voice carried the impatience of youth, the belief that power should be wielded swiftly and decisively. Maya paused, setting the knife aside. She looked at Noah, his sharp features so like her late husband's, and chose her words carefully, as she always did with her brilliant, headstrong son. Firing people without understanding the problem doesn't change anything, Noah. Those same people get hired elsewhere, and the cycle continues. I need to see it, feel it, to know what we're really up against. She gestured toward a faded black and white photo on the fridge, showing her grandmother, Ruth Jackson, smiling in a 1970s dress. Your great-grandmother walked into that same bank 40 years ago. She had perfect credit, a steady job, but they turned her away because of her skin. That's not just one person's mistake. It's a system. And systems don't change unless you expose them from the ground up. Noah leaned forward, his indignation softening but not gone. So, you're letting them disrespect you? After everything you've built? He gestured at the awards on the wall, his voice tinged with protectiveness. Maya smiled, her eyes warm, but resolute. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is let them underestimate you. That's how you see who they really are. She picked up the knife again, resuming her chopping. Tomorrow I'm going back. And this time, I'm pushing harder. Noah shook his head, but didn't argue further. As Maya prepared dinner, her mind replayed the first visit to Monarch Financial, the dismissive brochure, Liam Parker's discomfort, Ethan Brooks' calculated warmth toward a white customer. She thought of the bank's AI system, flagged in board reports as a tool for client prioritization, but what she suspected was perpetuating bias through coded metrics like zip codes and income proxies. In 2025, with fintech startups like Neobank and Wellspring luring customers with inclusive digital platforms, Monarch's old-world elitism was both its brand and its Achilles heel. Maya was determined to expose it, not just for her grandmother's memory, but for every customer still facing invisible barriers. The next morning, Maya returned to Monarch Financial, her folder now thicker with meticulously prepared documents. A driver's license, social security card, utility bills, 3 months of bank statements, tax returns, and a business registration for Maya Johnson, consultant. Her outfit, navy slacks, a white blouse, and the same cream cardigan, was deliberately unremarkable, projecting the image of a working professional with modest means. The lobby was busier today, its marble floors echoing with the footsteps of a dozen customers. Potted ferns and abstract art lined the walls, reinforcing the bank's aura of understated luxury. Maya noted the digital screens displaying wealth management ads, all featuring affluent, mostly white clients, a subtle message about who belonged here. She bypassed the teller line and approached the information desk, where a young receptionist typed rapidly on a tablet. "Good morning," Maya said, her voice clear and professional. "I'd like to open a checking and savings account and discuss your wealth management options. I have all the required documentation." She opened her folder, revealing the organized stack of papers. The receptionist, a new face unaware of Maya's previous visit, glanced at the documents and then at her computer, her smile polite but perfunctory. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked, her fingers hovering over the screen. "I spoke with someone yesterday who assured me I could come in today," Maya said smoothly, a strategic half-truth designed to trigger different protocols. "Since I'm here with everything required, is there someone available to assist me?" The receptionist's smile faltered, her eyes flicking toward the customer service desk, where Ethan Brooks sat, his tailored suit as impeccable as ever. He was watching the interaction, his expression unreadable, but his posture alert. "Let me check," the receptionist said, picking up her phone. As she spoke in hushed tones, Maya became aware of another figure observing from a glass-walled office. Richard Hayes, the branch manager, his silver hair and practiced smile projecting an air of detached authority. Richard's management style, she'd learned from board reports, relied on achieving targets while maintaining plausible deniability about how those results were obtained. The receptionist hung up, her tone apologetic. "Our bankers are with clients right now, but I can give you some materials to review." She handed Maya a slim folder of generic brochures, identical to the one from yesterday. "The basic requirements are on the first page." Maya opened the folder, her expression neutral. "I was hoping to discuss options tailored to my situation. I have business projections and a portfolio I'd like someone to review." She tapped the stack of documents, which included a credit report showing an 800 score and savings sufficient for any standard account. Before the receptionist could respond, Ethan Brooks approached, his smile professionally cordial, but his eyes cold. "I understand you're interested in our services," he said, his voice carrying a faint edge. "For new clients, we recommend starting with our online portal to streamline the process. Our staff is quite busy with existing account holders." The implication was clear. Maya didn't fit his profile of a valuable customer. "I prefer in-person banking," Maya replied, her tone pleasant but unyielding. "I'd be happy to wait or schedule an appointment." She held his gaze, noting the slight tightening of his jaw. Ethan's smile didn't waver, but his eyes narrowed. "We have strict compliance protocols for new accounts," he said, glancing at her folder. "I'll need to see additional identification and proof of address." It was a classic tactic, demanding excessive documentation from some customers while waiving it for others. Maya produced her driver's license, social security card, and a utility bill more than sufficient for any legitimate banking need. Ethan examined them with exaggerated scrutiny, holding the license up to the light as if checking for forgery. "I see you're self-employed," he noted, his tone suggesting this was a red flag. "We'll need tax returns and business registration documents before proceeding." Maya tilted her head, her voice calm but pointed. "I wasn't aware those were required for a standard checking account. Is that a new policy?" Her question was polite but carried an undercurrent of challenge. Ethan's expression hardened. "It's our policy for accounts we deem potentially high risk. If you'd prefer a simpler banking experience, there's a community credit union 6 blocks east that might suit your needs." The suggestion to take her business elsewhere was a clear steer, a tactic to redirect minority customers to less prestigious institutions. Behind Ethan, a young teller, Sophie Nguyen, busied herself with paperwork, her eyes flicking toward the exchange with unease. Sophie, 25, and relatively new to Monarch, had noticed the pattern of differential treatment but felt powerless to challenge it. Her job security depended on following protocol. Across the lobby, A white man in his 40s, James Carter, no relation to Maya, approached a consultation desk where he was greeted warmly by another banker. "Mr. Carter, great to see you," the banker said, ushering him to a seat. "Let's talk about that investment portfolio you mentioned." The contrast was stark. James, dressed in casual business attire, received immediate attention, while Maya faced barriers. "I'll bring the additional documents tomorrow," Maya said, gathering her papers. "Thank you for your time." She left the bank, her composure intact but her mind racing. Outside, she made detailed notes on her phone. Ethan's dismissive tone, the excessive documentation demands, the AI system's likely role in flagging her as high risk based on her assumed zip code. She also noted Sophie's discomfort, a potential ally within the system. As Maya walked away, a notification pinged on her phone, a post on X tagged #Monarch Financial, showing a blurry photo of the lobby with a caption, "Same old story, different treatment for different faces." The post had already garnered 200 retweets. Maya's lips curved slightly. The world was watching, and Monarch Financial's carefully curated facade was beginning to fray. The autumn sunlight of October 2025 streamed through the towering windows of Maya Carter's Manhattan office, casting long shadows across her desk. She sat reviewing a leather portfolio, its pages filled with financial projections, a business plan, and every conceivable document a bank could demand: driver's license, passport, tax returns, credit reports, utility bills, and business registration for Maya Johnson, consultant. Her attire for today's visit to Monarch Financial was slightly more formal, a tailored navy blazer over a white blouse, dark slacks and low heels, projecting the confidence of a professional seeking serious banking services. Yet, she remained deliberately understated, her headscarf still in place to mask the signature braids that marked her as the billionaire CEO of Carter Financial Group. Today was her third and final undercover visit to Monarch Financial, and Maya was prepared to push the boundaries of the bank's discriminatory practices to their breaking point. Her phone buzzed with a notification from X, where a post about her second visit had gained traction overnight, now at 1,200 retweets. The caption read, "Monarch Financial treating customers differently based on how they look. When will this stop? #banking while black." Comments poured in, some sharing similar experiences, others tagging news outlets. Maya's lips tightened into a determined line. The public was watching, and the pressure was mounting. She thought of her grandmother, Ruth Jackson, denied a loan in this very branch 40 years ago, and of her son Noah, whose future she was fighting to secure. This wasn't just about exposing Monarch's biases. It was about dismantling a system that had robbed generations of opportunity. At 9:45 a.m., Maya stepped into the familiar marble-floored lobby of Monarch Financial, its air thick with the scent of polished wood and quiet wealth. The space buzzed with morning activity. Customers lined up at teller windows, bankers escorted select clients to consultation desks, and digital screens flashed ads for elite investment products. Maya's eyes caught the subtle details. The way staff smiled warmly at a white businessman in a pinstripe suit. The way a black couple was handed a brochure and directed to the ATM. She noted the presence of an AI-driven kiosk near the entrance, its screen prompting users to pre-qualify for accounts, a tool she suspected was coded to filter out undesirable clients based on metrics like zip codes or income proxies. A modern echo of redlining. She approached the information desk, where a new receptionist, a young man with a nervous smile, greeted her. "Good morning," Maya said, her voice steady and authoritative. "I'd like to speak with someone about business loan options. I'm considering expanding my consulting practice and have all the necessary documentation." She opened her portfolio, revealing the meticulously organized papers. each one a deliberate challenge to the bank's excuses. The receptionist glanced at her documents, then at his tablet, his smile faltering. "Do you have an existing business account with us?" he asked, his tone cautious. "Not yet," Maya replied. "I am evaluating banking relationships for both personal and business needs. I'd like to discuss loan options today." Her words were clear, professional, leaving no room for misinterpretation. The receptionist hesitated, his eyes darting toward the customer service desk, where Ethan Brooks stood, his tailored suit and expensive watch as imposing as ever. Ethan's gaze locked onto Maya, his expression shifting from curiosity to barely concealed irritation as he recognized her from yesterday. "Please have a seat in the waiting area," the receptionist said, picking up his phone. "Someone will be with you shortly." Maya sat, her portfolio resting on her lap, and observed the lobby's dynamics. Sophie Nguyen, the young teller who had shown unease during her second visit, was at her window, processing a transaction but stealing glances in Maya's direction. Across the room, Eleanor Stone, the veteran loan officer, was engrossed in paperwork, her rigid posture suggesting she'd been briefed about Maya's persistence. Richard Hayes, the branch manager, emerged briefly from his office, his silver hair catching the light as he conferred with Ethan in hushed tones, their eyes occasionally flicking toward her dot after 23 minutes, during which 3 white customers were promptly escorted to consultation desks. Maya was approached by Eleanor Stone, who carried a thin folder of generic loan materials. "We have some standard information about our business services," Eleanor said, handing over the folder without sitting down, a clear signal of a brief interaction. "The basic requirements are outlined here." Maya opened the folder, her expression neutral. "I was hoping to discuss options tailored to my business. I have projections and a business plan I'd like someone to review." She slid a detailed document across the table, showing a consulting firm with $500,000 in annual revenue and a credit score of 820. Eleanor's eyes flicked to the document, then back to Maya, her professional mask slipping slightly. "Our business lending specialists are with clients right now," she said, glancing toward Ethan, who was now watching closely. "You could leave your materials for review, and someone will contact you." Before Maya could respond, the glass door swung open, admitting a white man in his late 30s, dressed in business casual, a golf shirt and khakis. Ethan moved swiftly to greet him. "Mr. Davidson, great to see you again," he called, his voice warm and carrying across the lobby. "Hear about that business expansion loan. Richard is ready for you in his office right now." The contrast was glaring. Immediate, personalized service for one client, generic materials and delays for another. Maya leaned forward, her voice calm but loud enough to be heard by nearby customers. "I notice your business lending specialists seem available for some clients. I'm happy to wait if Mr. Hayes will be free after his current meeting." Eleanor's composure wavered, her eyes darting to Ethan, who approached with a tight smile. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, directing the question to Eleanor, but staring at Maya. "Miss Johnson, as we explained yesterday, we have specific protocols for new clients. If you're not prepared to follow them, perhaps another institution would be more suitable. I'm simply trying to understand which protocols are standard and which are selectively applied," Maya replied, her tone measured but carrying to the growing crowd of onlookers. "I've provided more documentation than required, yet I'm being asked to wait or leave, while others are assisted immediately." Ethan's face flushed, his professional veneer cracking. "You're creating a disturbance," he said, his voice rising. "If you don't leave now, I'll have to call security." He gestured to 2 guards near the entrance, who began moving toward Maya. A customer, Maria Lopez, a Latina woman in her 40s, pulled out her phone and began recording. "This is ridiculous," she muttered, loud enough for others to hear. She's just asking for a long consultation. Her video streamed live to X, the caption reading, Monarch Financial at it again. Hashtag justice for all. Within minutes, the post gained traction, retweets climbing into the hundreds. Sophie Nguyen, behind her tele-window, hesitated, then spoke up softly. Maybe we could check if a banker's free. Her voice was tentative, but Ethan shot her a glare that silenced her instantly. Richard Hayes emerged from his office, his practiced smile in place, but his eyes wary. Let's all remain calm, he said, addressing the lobby but focusing on Maya. Miss Johnson, we're happy to assist, but you'll need to follow our procedures. Perhaps we can schedule you for next week. Maya stood, her posture composed but unyielding. I'd like to speak with you now about your lending practices. Mr. Hayes, I've noticed a pattern of differential treatment, and I believe your security cameras and these customers' phones. She nodded toward Maria, whose phone was still recording, will confirm it. Ethan's patience snapped. That's enough, he shouted, stepping into Maya's personal space. You're disrupting our operations. Security, escort this woman out. The guards closed in, one reaching for Maya's arm, but she stepped back, her voice steady. Please call security, she said calmly. And while you're at it, call your corporate office. I'd like them to witness this conversation as well. She pulled out her phone, dialed a number, and put it on speaker. The lobby fell silent as a crisp voice answered. Miss Carter, the team is on standby. Shall we proceed? The use of Carter instead of Johnson sent a ripple of confusion through the staff. Ethan's brow furrowed, and Richard's smile froze. Maya ended the call, her eyes never leaving Ethan's. I suggest you prepare for a significant change in how this branch operates, she said, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who knew the tide was about to turn. The marble-floored lobby of Monarch Financial stood frozen in a tense tableau, the air thick with anticipation as the sound of approaching police sirens pierced the silence. Red and blue lights flashed through the glass doors, painting the towering columns with an eerie glow. Customers clutched their phones, some recording, others whispering, as two security guards flanked Maya Carter, who stood poised in the center of the storm, her leather portfolio still in hand. Under the guise of Maya Johnson, she had just been publicly humiliated by Ethan Brooks, the customer service manager, who had called for her removal, accusing her of disrupting operations. Maria Lopez, a Latina customer, continued streaming the scene live on X, her video already amassing thousands of views with hashtags like #MonarchInjustice trending. Sophie Nguyen, the young teller, watched from her window, her hands trembling as she debated intervening. Richard Hayes, the branch manager, hovered nearby, his practiced smile strained as he sensed the situation slipping beyond his control. Ethan straightened his tie with a sharp tug, his face flushed with righteous indignation. The police are here, he announced to the lobby, his voice carrying a smug satisfaction. This woman has been causing a disturbance, and we won't tolerate it. His words were directed at Maya, but his gaze swept the room, seeking validation. From the staff and customers who had witnessed her challenge to the bank's discriminatory practices, Maya remained unflinching, her dark eyes locked on Ethan's. One hand rested lightly on her phone, still on speaker from her call moments ago, when a voice had addressed her as Miss Carter, sowing confusion among the staff. The receptionist, pale and uncertain, glanced between Ethan and Maya, while Richard's eyes narrowed, sensing a shift he couldn't yet name. The guards hesitated, their hands hovering near their radios, unsure whether to proceed with Ethan's order to escort her out. The glass door swung open, admitting 3 police officers. The lead, a stocky white man in his 50s with a weathered face, entered with his hand near his holster, his eyes immediately fixing on Maya. Behind him followed a younger white officer, his posture mirroring his superiors, and a third officer, An Asian American woman who hung back slightly, scanning the scene with a more neutral expression. "What's the situation here?" The lead officer, whose name tag read SGT Malone, demanded. Addressing Ethan as the apparent authority, Ethan stepped forward, extending a hand with practiced confidence. "Thank you for coming so quickly, officers," he said, his tone smooth but authoritative. "This woman has been disruptive, refusing to follow our protocols and making unfounded accusations against our staff. We asked her to leave, and she became confrontational." His account was a masterful distortion, painting Maya as the aggressor despite the dozens of witnesses and Maria's live video, which now showed 5,000 viewers and climbing. SGT. Malone nodded, accepting Ethan's narrative without question, his body language shifting to view Maya as a threat. "Ma'am," he said, turning to her, "I need you to step away from other customers and keep your hands visible. We'll sort this out." Maya raised her hand slightly, compliant but not submissive, her voice calm and resonant in the hushed lobby. "Officers, there's been a misrepresentation of what occurred. I was denied service, subjected to excessive documentation demands, and threatened with removal for questioning discriminatory practices. This entire interaction is recorded on the bank's security cameras, and several customers have footage on their phones." She nodded toward Maria, whose phone remained raised, capturing every word. "I respectfully request you review this evidence before proceeding." Maria stepped forward, emboldened. "She's telling the truth," she said, her voice steady, despite Ethan's glare. "I've got it all on video, how they treated her differently, how they tried to kick her out for asking questions. It's live on X right now." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, and a few other customers nodded, their phones also recording, their expressions ranging from outrage to unease. Ethan's composure faltered, his eyes darting to the growing number of onlookers. "She's exaggerating," he snapped, addressing Malone, but loud enough for the lobby to hear. "She's been here 3 days in a row, demanding special treatment. We have protocols for a reason." Before Malone could respond, Maya spoke. Again, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Officer, I'd like to make one brief phone call. It will clarify this situation quickly." Her request was unusual, and Malone's instinct was to deny it. But something in her demeanor, the absolute confidence of someone unaccustomed to being refused, gave him pause. "Make it quick," he said gruffly. "Keep it on speaker and hands where I can see them." Maya nodded, retrieving her phone with deliberate care. She dialed a number from memory, and after 2 rings, a crisp, professional voice answered. "Miss Carter, we're 5 minutes out with the documentation and legal team as requested. Security footage backup is in progress. Shall we proceed with the emergency protocol?" The use of Carter instead of Johnson sent a shockwave through the lobby. Ethan's jaw tightened, and Richard's smile vanished entirely. Sophie's eyes widened, her hands frozen on her teller keyboard. Even Malone blinked, recalibrating as the pieces began to fall into place. Maya ended the call and returned her phone to her purse, her movements unhurried. "Thank you, Lauren," she said, addressing her assistant, Lauren Mitchell, by name. Turning to Ethan, she spoke with measured precision. "Mr. Brooks, I suggest you use these next few minutes to consider your recent actions and their consequences." Ethan's confidence crumbled, his voice sharp with unease. "Who are you?" he demanded, stepping back involuntarily, as if sensing the ground shifting beneath him. Before Maya could answer, the glass doors opened again, and a trio of impeccably dressed professionals entered with synchronized purpose. Leading them was Lauren Mitchell, a black woman in her early 30s, her Armani suit and commanding presence drawing every eye. Behind her followed Edward Grant, a silver-haired white man with the gravitas of senior legal counsel, carrying a leather briefcase, and Amit Patel, a young South Asian man already tapping on a tablet displaying Monarch's internal systems. Their arrival was a tidal wave, transforming the lobby's atmosphere from tension to stunned silence. Lauren approached Maya directly, ignoring Ethan and the officers. "Miss Carter," she said, handing over a sleek portfolio embossed with the Carter Financial Group logo, a symbol instantly recognizable to anyone in banking. "We've secured the acquisition documents, corporate identification, and preliminary findings from the security footage. The board has been notified, and HR is on standby for immediate action." Richard Hayes' face drained of color, his eyes fixed on the portfolio as recognition set in. "Miss Carter?" he stammered, his voice barely audible. "There must be some misunderstanding." Maya opened the portfolio, extracting a document with embossed seals and signatures. "There's no misunderstanding, Mr. Hayes," she said, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who had planned this moment for weeks. "I am Maya Carter, CEO of Carter Financial Group. 3 weeks ago, my company acquired controlling interest in Monarch Financial's parent corporation. The transaction hasn't been publicly announced, which is why you weren't informed." She handed the acquisition papers to Ethan, whose hands trembled as he took them. "In simple terms, Mr. Brooks, I own this bank and have since before our first interaction." The lobby erupted in hushed gasps and murmurs. Customers' phones captured every second. Maria's live stream now at 20,000 viewers, with comments flooding in. "This is unreal. She owns the bank?" Ethan's face turned ashen, the document shaking in his grip as the reality crashed over him. The woman he had dismissed, humiliated, and tried to eject was his ultimate superior, the architect of his professional downfall. Richard stepped forward, his obsequious smile reappearing in a desperate bid for survival. "Miss Carter, had we known who you were, you would have received our premier service. This is a regrettable oversight." "No, Mr. Hayes," Maya interrupted, her tone sharp but controlled. "This isn't an oversight. It's exactly what I came to expose: how Monarch Financial treats customers it perceives as powerless. For 3 days, I've been denied service, subjected to excessive demands, and threatened with removal, all because of my appearance. This isn't about me, it's about every customer who faces these barriers daily." Turning to Lauren, Maya continued, "Please provide the officers with copies of my identification and corporate documentation. Ensure all security footage is preserved and backed up to our servers immediately." Lauren nodded, handing a folder to SGT Malone, who accepted it with a mix of confusion and respect, his earlier certainty shaken. Maya faced Ethan, her gaze unflinching. "Mr. Brooks, your actions demanding excessive documentation, steering me to other institutions, and calling security to silence my questions violate not only ethics but the law. Effective immediately, you are terminated." She turned to Eleanor Stone, who stood frozen near a consultation desk. "Ms. Stone, your selective application of lending standards and dismissal of qualified clients based on race ends now. You are also terminated." Finally, she addressed Richard. "Mr. Hayes, your leadership enabled and protected these practices for years. Your tenure ends today." The lobby fell silent, the weight of her words settling over the room. Security guards, the same ones who had nearly escorted Maya out, now moved toward Ethan, Eleanor, and Richard, their faces grim. Ethan's bravado collapsed, his voice shaking. I didn't know, Miss Carter. I'm sorry. Your apologies don't change the harm you've caused," Maya said, cutting him off. "This isn't about one person's actions. It's about a culture you helped sustain." As the guards led the trio to collect their belongings, Maria's video captured their exits. Ethan's head bowed, Eleanor's expression resigned, Richard clutching his briefcase in futile defiance. Customers began applauding spontaneously. Not for the firings, but for the exposure of a system long overdue for accountability. Sophie Nguyen, still at her teller window, exhaled in relief, her decision to stay with Monarch solidified by the promise of change.sgt. Malone approached. Maya, his tone now deferential. Miss Carter, do you wish to pursue formal complaints? We have evidence and witnesses confirming the differential treatment. Maya considered the question, her eyes scanning the lobby customers sharing stories. Staff reassessing their roles, Maria's phone still streaming. No formal charges. She said, this is about transforming an institution, not destroying individuals. But their actions have consequences, and those consequences start today. She turned to the gathered crowd, her voice carrying across the marble expanse. Monarch Financial will close for the remainder of today to begin immediate changes. Customers, rest assured, these changes will ensure everyone is treated with the respect you deserve, regardless of appearance or background. Staff, a mandatory meeting will begin in 30 minutes to outline new expectations. As Maya moved toward the executive offices, followed by Lauren, Edward, and Amit, the lobby buzzed with renewed energy. Customers shared videos and stories. On X, the hashtag Monarch Reform climbing to national trends. A news van pulled up outside, alerted by the viral posts. Maya paused at the office door, her eyes lingering on the spot where her grandmother had been turned away 40 years ago. The fight wasn't over, but today it had begun. The marble-floored lobby of Monarch Financial, once a stage for quiet elitism, now buzzed with a different energy as the afternoon sun slanted. Through its towering windows on October 11, 2025, the glass doors, still bearing the faint smudge of Ethan Brooks' hurried exit, stood closed, a symbolic barrier between the bank's discriminatory past and the reckoning unfolding within. Maya Carter, no longer disguised as Maya Johnson, stood at the center of the lobby, her navy blazer and steady presence commanding the space. The Carter Financial Group logo on the portfolio in her hand gleamed under the fluorescent lights, a stark reminder of her authority as the bank's new owner. Customers had been politely asked to leave for the day, their phones still buzzing with videos and posts on X, where hashtag Monarch Reform was now trending nationally with over 100,000 mentions. Outside, a second news van joined the first. Reporters, setting up cameras to capture the unfolding story of a bank exposed and a leader, stepping in to rewrite its rules. Inside, the remaining staff gathered in uneasy clusters, their whispers echoing off the mahogany counters. Sophie Nguyen, the young teller who had hesitated to challenge Ethan's orders, stood near her window, her eyes bright with a mix of relief and apprehension. Maria Lopez, the customer whose live-streamed video had ignited the social media firestorm, lingered near the exit, texting furiously to update her followers. Lauren Mitchell, Maya's assistant, coordinated with the legal and IT teams. Edward Grant and Amit Patel, who were already analyzing security footage and internal systems for evidence of systemic bias. The air was thick with anticipation, the weight of change palpable as Maya prepared to address the staff. She stepped onto a low platform near the consultation desks, her voice clear and resonant. Effective immediately, Monarch Financial is under new leadership and new standards. She began, her eyes sweeping the room. What happened here over the past 3 days wasn't an anomaly. It was a symptom of a culture that prioritizes profit over people, exclusivity over equity. That ends today. The staff fell silent, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably, their futures uncertain in the wake of Ethan Brooks, Eleanor Stone, and Richard Hayes' terminations. Maya gestured to Lauren, who distributed a stack of documents outlining new policies. First, we're standardizing documentation requirements, Maya said. No customer will be asked for excessive paperwork based on appearance, zip code, or perceived status. Second, the AI-driven client evaluation system which flagged certain customers as high risk based on biased metrics, is suspended pending a full audit. We will not perpetuate redlining under the guise of technology. She paused, letting the words sink in. Third, every employee will undergo mandatory training on the history of financial discrimination, unconscious bias, and equitable service. Failure to comply will result in immediate termination. Sophie raised her hand tentatively, her voice soft but clear. Miss Carter, I saw what was happening, but I didn't speak up. I'm sorry. I want to be part of the change. Her honesty drew murmurs of support from a few colleagues, though others looked away, perhaps fearing their own complicity would be exposed. Maya's expression softened. Thank you, Sophie. Your willingness to learn exactly what we need. Those who choose to stay will be part of rebuilding Monarch into an institution that serves everyone. She turned to Amit, who was tapping on his tablet. Amit, update us on the systems. Amit looked up, his voice steady. We've identified that the AI system used zip codes and income proxies to prioritize clients, disproportionately flagging minority customers as low value. We've locked the system and are backing up all data for a third-party review. Security footage from the past 3 days has been preserved, and we found additional instances of differential treatment. Maya nodded. That footage will be part of our transparency initiative. We're not hiding what happened here. We're exposing it to ensure it never happens again. She addressed the staff again. This branch will remain closed for the rest of today and tomorrow for physical and operational changes. By Monday, you'll see a different Monarch Financial. As the meeting concluded, Maya directed Lauren to assign interim roles. Sophie was tasked with assisting the HR team in coordinating training, a small but significant step that signaled her potential as a future leader. The remaining staff dispersed to their stations, some visibly relieved, others whispering about whether they could adapt to the new expectations. Outside, the reporters grew in number, their cameras capturing customers, sharing stories with one another, many echoing Maria's video with their own experiences of being dismissed or redirected at Monarch. Maya High walked through the lobby, overseeing the first physical changes. Workers arrived to dismantle the imposing mahogany barriers that had separated bankers from customers, replacing them with open consultation areas designed for collaboration. Digital screens, once flashing ads for wealth management, were reprogrammed to showcase community investment initiatives, small business loans for underserved neighborhoods, financial literacy programs, and partnerships with local nonprofits. The changes were symbolic but deliberate, signaling a shift from exclusivity to INCL, USIVI, to Y. Maria approached Maya before leaving, her phone now tucked away. I posted the video because I've been through this too, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Not here, but at other banks. They make you feel like you don't belong. Thank you for doing this. She hesitated, then added, my followers on X are going wild. They want to know what happens next. Maya smiled, her eyes warm. Tell them to keep watching. This is just the beginning. Maria nodded, returning to her phone to post an update. Monarch Financial's new owner is changing everything. #Monarch Reform is real. The post surged to 50,000 retweets within an hour, drawing attention from national outlets like CNN and the Wall Street Journal, which began framing the story as a watershed moment for banking reform. Back in the lobby, Maya met with Edward Grant, the legal counsel, to review the evidence against the terminated employees. Ethan's actions, demanding excessive documentation and calling security, violate federal anti-discrimination laws, Edward said, flipping through a report. Eleanor's selective lending standards and Richard's complicity in enabling these practices are well documented. We're preparing a public statement to acknowledge the findings and outline our reforms. Good, Maya said. Transparency is non-negotiable. We'll release the statement tomorrow, alongside a commitment to a third-party audit of all Monarch branches. She glanced at Amit, who was coordinating with IT to overhaul the II system. Ensure the audit includes how our algorithms were coded. We can't fix what we don't understand. As the afternoon wore on, the lobby transformed. From a place of business to a stage for accountability. Employees packed up personal items, some choosing to leave voluntarily, unable to align with the new standards. Others, like Sophie, stayed, eager to prove themselves in a reimagined Monarch. The news vans outside multiplied, and a local activist group arrived, holding signs reading "Banking for All" and chanting support for Maya's actions. The story had transcended the branch, sparking a national conversation on X about systemic bias in finance, with users sharing stories under hashtags like #endbankingdiscrimination. Maya stood alone for a moment near the entrance, her eyes tracing the spot where her grandmother, Ruth Jackson, had been turned away 40 years ago. The pain of that rejection had fueled Maya's rise, but it also reminded her of the weight of her responsibility. Exposing Monarch's practices was a victory, but it was only the first step in a larger battle against systemic inequity. She thought of Noah, who would come home tonight expecting answers, and of the countless families still locked out of financial opportunity. The changes she was implementing: open consultation areas, transparent policies, bias-free algorithms were a start, but they would need to endure beyond this moment. As the last workers left and the lobby fell quiet, Maya straightened the framed community initiative poster, a small act of ownership that mirrored the larger stewardship she had assumed. Outside, the reporters lingered, their cameras trained on the glass doors, waiting for the next chapter of a story that was only beginning to unfold. 6 months later, on a crisp April morning in 2026, the lobby of Monarch Financial's flagship branch in New York's financial district bore little resemblance to the imposing fortress Maya Carter had first entered as Maya Johnson. The towering mahogany counters were gone, replaced by open consultation areas with low, welcoming tables where bankers and customers collaborated as equals. Digital screens, once flashing ads for elite wealth management, now showcased Monarch's community investment initiatives, small business loans for minority entrepreneurs, financial literacy workshops in underserved neighborhoods, and partnerships with local nonprofits. The marble floors still gleamed, but the atmosphere was no longer one of exclusivity. It was vibrant, inclusive, alive with the hum of diverse voices. Customers of all backgrounds moved through the space with ease. Their interactions with staff marked by respect rather than suspicion. Outside, a digital billboard across the street displayed Monarch's new slogan, "Banking for Every Future," a testament to the transformation Maya had set in motion. Maya stood near the entrance, her signature braids restored, her tailored suit a quiet nod to her role as CEO of Carter Financial Group. She watched a young black woman, dressed in modest clothing, receive detailed investment advice from a banker who listened with the same attentiveness he'd shown a wealthy white client moments earlier. Nearby, a Latino entrepreneur discussed a business loan with Sophie Nguyen, now a team lead after proving her commitment to Monarch's new standards. A South Asian family opened accounts with standard identification, no excessive demands or subtle redirects to other institutions. Maya smiled, her heart swelling with a quiet pride. This was the vision she had carried since learning of her grandmother, Ruth Jackson's rejection here 40 years ago. A vision of a bank that served everyone, not just the privileged few. The transformation had not been easy. In the weeks following Maya's reveal, Monarch Financial had faced intense scrutiny. The viral videos on X, sparked by Maria Lopez's livestream, had grown into a national movement, with hashtag Monarch Reform and hashtag End Banking Discrimination trending for weeks. National outlets like the New York Times and CNN ran features on Maya's undercover investigation, framing it as a landmark case for corporate accountability in 2025's climate of heightened social awareness. Competitors like First National and Elite Bank issued statements touting their own inclusive practices, but whispers on X suggested they were scrambling to audit their own systems to avoid similar exposure. A federal investigation into banking discrimination spurred by Monarch's case was now underway, with regulators citing Maya's transparency as a model for reform. Operationally, Monarch had undergone a complete overhaul. The third-party audit Maya commissioned revealed a web of biased practices embedded in the bank's AI-driven client evaluation system, which had used the zip codes and income proxies to disproportionately flag minority customers as high risk. The system was scrapped and rebuilt with input from data ethicists, ensuring risk assessments were based on individual financial metrics rather than coded proxies for race or class. Lending criteria were redesigned to eliminate barriers like those that had denied Ruth Jackson her loan. And Monarch launched a $50 million community investment fund targeting neighborhoods historically excluded from financial services. Hiring practices were revamped to prioritize diversity and ethical commitment, resulting in a workforce that mirrored the communities it served. Sophie, now a rising star, led training sessions on unconscious bias, her own journey from complicity to advocacy, inspiring others. The public response defied expectations. Despite initial fears that exposing Monarch's failures would tank its reputation, new account applications surged by 40% in the first quarter of 2026, particularly among minority customers who had long been underserved. Corporate clients, drawn to Monarch's commitment to social responsibility, transferred substantial accounts, citing Maya's bold leadership as a deciding factor. On X, users shared stories of their own encounters with banking discrimination, creating a digital archive of experiences that fueled advocacy for broader industry reform. Maya's transparency, publishing the audit findings and outlining specific changes, set a new standard in an industry accustomed to burying problems behind vague press releases. As Maya walked through the transformed lobby, she paused at a framed photo near the entrance, a new addition to the decor. It showed Ruth Jackson in her 1970s dress, smiling with quiet resilience. Below it, a plaque read, "In honor of Ruth Jackson, whose dream inspired a legacy of change." Maya's eyes lingered on the image, her thoughts drifting to Noah, now 17, who had watched her journey with a mix of awe and pride. At home, over dinner, he'd said, "You didn't just fix the bank, Mom. You showed people they can fight back." His words echoed the deeper truth of Monarch's transformation. It wasn't just about one institution, but about empowering others to demand justice. The humanistic lessons of Maya's story were clear. Change begins with courage. The courage to confront uncomfortable truths, to step into spaces where you're underestimated, and to hold systems accountable, even at personal cost. Maya's undercover mission exposed not just individual biases, but a culture that had thrived on exclusion for decades. Her victory was a reminder that power, when wielded with purpose and empathy, can rewrite the rules for those who come after. It was a call to action for everyone: customers, employees, leaders, to challenge inequity wherever it persists, whether in a bank lobby or beyond. Maya straightened the frame, her fingers brushing the plaque. The lobby hummed around her, a living testament to what was possible when one person dared to act. As she stepped outside, the spring air carried the promise of renewal, and she knew Monarch's story would ripple outward, inspiring others to build a future where no one is turned away. If this story of courage and justice moved you, join us at Legacy Stories on X to discover more narratives of resilience and change. Share your own experiences of standing up to inequity in the comments. We're listening, and your voice matters. Subscribe to stay connected with stories that inspire, challenge, and transform. See you in the next story.